I have got 6 p.m. on Monday, July 1st. We'll call to order this regular meeting of the Winooski City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Thomas Redner.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. First up is agenda review. Any questions, concerns about the order of this evening's agenda? Okay, we will move to public comment then. This is space for members of the public to make comment on items not included in this agenda. Time for public comment is included by default for each item on the agenda. I understand there are some folks in the room, so I would invite our first speaker to please come forward, introduce yourself, and make your statement.
We ready?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Share your name and residence before you begin, or affiliation with Winooski, and then please feel free to make your statement.
One more time?
Your name, if you live in Winooski.
I couldn't understand.
Statement.
One more time.
Name and whether you live in Winooski.
Okay. Yes. My name is Kara Montague. I live in Winooski. I was wondering if there's any updates on the PFAS spill at the guard base. Just concerned that it's coming downriver, and that would be us. If the guard has stepped up to do any cleanup efforts and further testing for PFAS.
Thank you, Kara. Councilor Oakleaf is our representative to the Burlington Airport Commission, and I know that she has requested an update at their upcoming agenda, their upcoming commission meeting. So we don't have any details to share at the moment, but we'll after that meeting.
Correct. And I'll repeat this in a second, but our July monthly meeting, Airport Commission meeting, will be tomorrow afternoon, starting at 4 p.m. You can join in person at the airport or join online, whichever meets your convenience. I believe we're expecting them to cover some updates during the director's review, so that's usually the last agenda item. That's a standing agenda item.
Does the guard participate in those meetings?
They are not expected to, no.
But they are talking to the directors of the airport, and they would have the updates?
I believe the questions would be best for directed to the airport director for any other comments you have tomorrow. I don't have updates as to what their follow-up is. It's why I asked for a review of that during the agenda tomorrow, as I don't have any further detail as to what the director and has been conversations they've been having with the guard at this point.
Okay. I don't think I can make that meeting, but I would just thank you and encourage you to continue to get more information from the guard about their plans for cleanup and their, responsibility to do that.
Yeah, it's why I asked for the agenda item to be added.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
How would I get an update? How would I find out what happens at the meeting?
So the airport is managed by the city of Burlington.
Yeah.
So any agenda items and any agenda notes you would find through the city of Burlington's city council website. You'd look for the airport commission, and it's similar to this. There is a recording. You can read the minutes, provide comment ahead of time as well. It just is through the City of Burlington website.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your concern, Kara.
Christine, Judy's here also for public comment.
Oh, please come on up.
Thank you. My name's Judy Lance, and I'm a resident of Winooski. And I guess my question is with regard to a statement, Christine, that you had in your mayor's column in the most recent Winooski newsletter about the traffic light that the state has agreed to put at Hood's Crossing and East Down Street, and the fact that it won't cost the city of Winooski anything to do that. So I'm just wondering if that means it won't cost us anything, even for site work or anything at all. And also, if that has any, since that's would agreed to be done in connection with the bridge, Winooski River Bridge, if there's any implications of the amount of money that will be spent on that with regards to our $3+ million contribution to the bridge construction project? Like, are they going to deduct anything? I mean, is there going to be any change?
My understanding is that the addition of the signal at Hood's Crossing is fully funded outside the scope of the bridge. Like, it's not going to reduce the amount for the bridge or require us to add in more on the match. It's a free add-on, essentially.
Require us to add anything more in? Is that what you said? The sound here is not very good, at least to my ears, so I have a hard time.
No, it will not require any additional spending from the city for the project.
One more.
For construction,
What's that mean?
meaning that we would own the light afterward.
Right, okay. Okay, so we'd have to pay for the
Maintenance.
electricity and maintenance and that sort of, okay, all right. And do we anticipate a change in the street configuration there as part of this? I mean, the railroad's there and everything, I know it's, or haven't we gotten that far?
The designs were included in the East Allen scoping study in 2018. I haven't looked at them in quite some time. To my recollection, signalization was a preferred alternative because it did not require significant reconfiguration of the intersection.
Okay. And is work still being done to try to see if there's some way we can contribute less than that? Is the 3.4 million, is that what we voted on? I can't even remember.
Yes, we had some conversations with state legislators that will continue through the summer into next session.
Okay.
About that.
Okay, I would appreciate it if, when something's decided or likely, I'd appreciate it if we could get an update on that. Because
Certainly.
I feel
I
like.
don't have any significant forward progress at this time, so haven't
Okay.
shared an update, but
Hopefully,
as we get there,
hopefully there will be some forward
I
progress.
hope so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Is there anyone else in chambers? Okay, no guests on Zoom. So we will move into our consent agenda. We have city council meeting minutes from June 17, payroll warrant for June 9 to 22, and accounts payable warrant for June 27. Any concerns from council? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to council reports. Bryn, would you like to go first, building off of what you shared?
Sure. So the mayor and I have interviewed potential candidates for the airport commission. We had 3 candidates that applied. We will be moving forward one of the 3 for the July 15th meeting, council meeting for vote. If council assumes, if council opts to accept that nomination, then they will take over the airport commission role at the August meeting, August airport meeting. They're outside of the request for a foam release update from the airport director during the meeting tomorrow. There are no other significant items that I'm expecting updates on. I think there's continued work on the noise exposure map update. I don't think the technical advisory group has another meeting scheduled yet, but the city manager might be able to speak to that. And just recurring items for noise complaints and progress to date on sound insulation phasing. But usually that's slow progress, but they're improving their reporting, their monthly reporting at least, so it's a little easier to follow along where they are. So that's helpful. Trinidad Solid Waste District met this past week for their monthly organizational meeting, and our Winooski seats are not up for reappointment this year, likely be next year. I have asked to see if there's any other additional grant funds or community cleanup funds that might be available, as we consistently utilize all of our available funds each year, and usually have ample room for other projects. So I have inquired with the executive director and the chair if there's additional opportunities we might be able to take advantage of. There is some progress on the materials recovery facility. It looks like the state has some permitting concerns with the parcel. And there's just more information that's pending on the permitting for that. So there'll likely be some news in the near future, but right now, they'd hoped to break ground, but due to permitting challenges, it's been delayed some. There hasn't been any Winooski Bridge Replacement Committee meeting scheduled, so I don't have any updates there. And the Municipal Infrastructure Commission did not meet in June. And I anticipate meeting in July, but we'll see. Those are my updates.
All right, thank you. Aurora, would you like to go next?
Yes, I don't have any updates for this meeting at this time. August will be our next Inclusion and Belonging Commission meeting.
All right, thank you. Charlie?
Sure. The Winooski Housing Commission met last week in a joint meeting with the Planning Commission. We had an extensive overview of sections 5.16 and 5.17 to the Winooski Land Use Code as a part of the Commission's ongoing discussions about creating inclusive and accessible housing. Last week, the Housing Director, Housing Commission Chair, and myself interviewed 2 of 3 potential candidates for 2 open commission seats. Our third interview will be in mid-July, and then once those are completed, we'll be presenting, or Jasmine will be presenting our picks to council, and we'll be meeting again on July 23rd at 6 p.m. At City Hall, and there's also a hybrid Zoom option.
All right, thank you. Thomas?
Thank you. Yes. So a few updates on the downtown Winooski side. Just to start, as a reminder for everybody, so during the Main Street construction, businesses are still open. Unfortunately, the businesses along Main Street have seen a drastic decrease in business since the project started. So please, the next time you are thinking about eating out, getting takeout, consider one of the many restaurants on Main Street. There's also some fantastic retail businesses there as well. So let's make sure to remember that Main Street businesses are still open. So tell your friends. French Heritage Day and Juneteenth, which we celebrated recently, were the best ever in terms of turnout. So thanks everybody who came out for those, and thank you to everybody who was involved in making them great days. The volunteers, the vendors, everybody just made both events really, really special. So thank you. And the farmers market is also doing well. So if you haven't checked out the farmers market this year, make sure to swing by on Sundays. And then downtown Winooski, if you may remember, was accredited through Main Street America a few months ago. Due to that, they were able, some grant opportunities opened up to them. So the director of downtown Winooski recently applied for a $50,000 grant. So waiting to hear back on that. Some projects that are coming through. There's going to be a mosaic tile project under one of the flag poles in Rotary Park. Some of the mosaics have already arrived and just waiting on more, and then they will decide on which flagpole to decorate with said mosaics. And then also a UVM master gardener is going to be doing some gardening work in Rotary Park, so that is really exciting. And then Winooski Wednesdays and Sunday service do continue. If you haven't checked out Sunday service yet, it's a really great way to kind of ease into the week and finish up the weekend. The next Winooski Wednesday will be July 10th, and the next Sunday service will be July 21st. And you can go to downtownwinooski.org to see more about all of their summer programming. Thanks.
Thank you. I have no updates to share, so we'll move to city updates with City Manager Elaine Wong.
There is more work to do. We'll have some information and next steps available on the project page in the coming weeks. You can learn more at winooskibt.gov/equityaction. While we are sad to see him go, I invite the City Council and community at large to join me in thanking Eric Forwald, our Director of City Planning, for his 6 years of dedicated service. Today was his last day, so if you send emails to his email, they will bounce, but we can pass them along. We are very thankful for Eric's expertise and experience. He will be greatly missed. From all of us at City Hall, we do wish you the best of luck on your next adventure in Madison, Wisconsin. And we are pleased to announce that we've hired Ravi Venkataraman, who's also on the line now for a later agenda item, as our new Director of City Planning. He started last week. Ravi has extensive experience in land use planning, having previously served as a transportation planner for the City of Burlington, the town planner for the town of Richmond, and the Development Review Board coordinator and assistant zoning officer for the town of Shelburne. He currently teaches urban planning classes at the University of Vermont and Virginia Tech. He holds a master's in urban and regional planning from Virginia Tech and is currently pursuing his PhD in planning, governance, and globalization. Despite all that, I have full confidence that he will be able to fully fulfill his Director of City Planning duties. Please do join me in welcoming Ravi to Winooski. And we'll have a little bit more time with him in a bit, so you don't have to jump on right this. That's all for me.
All right, thank you, Elaine. That is a great segue into our regular items. First up for discussion approval is the appointment of acting zoning administrator.
Yes, so as we just mentioned, the current Director of City Plan, well, actually no longer current, the former director is leaving the state tomorrow. We started the recruitment for the next Director of City Planning in April. The city received 6 applications for the position, 2 advanced to screening, and then in-person interviews with department heads, the city manager, and a virtual panel of members of the Planning Commission and Development Review Board. I also consulted several members of the community who interact with this position about important qualities and skills they would be looking for. After considering all the feedback on the requirements of the role and on the finalists, I appointed Ravi Venkataraman to the position of Director of City Planning. His start date was Tuesday, June 25th. Eric has been working closely with him last week and even today to support the transition. Among the responsibilities of this position is, of course, to serve as the city's zoning administrator. Per Vermont statute, the Planning Commission is to nominate the zoning administrator, and City Council is to appoint that nominee. It has to happen this way. But because we need a zoning administrator in the meantime, and we have a perfectly qualified one, before the next Planning Commission can act on this, I request Council to appoint Ravi to serve as acting zoning administrator until such time that the Planning Commission nominates the zoning administrator. Council is allowed to, by statute, to appoint an acting without an action by the Planning Commission. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Did you say Ravi is here?
Online right now.
Would you like to just briefly introduce yourself for members of the public?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ravi. And I'm really, really happy to be here. I've had great experiences so far with town staff, with city councilors, the mayor in the last week and a half. Everyone's been so welcoming here, and I'm really glad to serve the city of Winooski as the director of city planning. As Elaine mentioned, all my professional background and my experiences in planning. This is a subject that I just like think about 24/7, and I appreciate it. Other than that, I enjoy just being outside a lot, and I think this time of year is like the perfect time to do that. But other than that, again, I'm really glad to be here, and thanks for your consideration.
Well, thank you. Very excited to welcome you aboard. I did finally get to meet you in person last week. It's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to working with you and seeing how you serve Winooski. Are there any questions from members of council?
No, just welcome. We're excited to have you.
Bryn, go ahead.
Yeah, I also want to echo what the deputy mayor said. Welcome, and very excited I had a chance to meet you a week and a half ago. And I know that we've got a lot on our plates ahead, and it sounds like you'll be able to hit the ground running, which is absolutely what we need. So looking forward to working with you.
What used to be his office, now Revi's office, to say something to him. He was already on the phone talking about accessory dwelling units to a color, so already on it.
Are there any questions from members of the public? I think we have someone in room, someone on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature.
Nobody in the room.
Okay. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to appoint Ravi Venkataraman to serve as acting zoning administrator.
So moved.
Motion by Aurora, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you so much, and official welcome, Ravi. We will move on to item B, setting the fiscal year 2025 municipal tax rate. This is a routine activity we must complete annually, and I believe Angela will walk us through it.
I'm happy to do so. Included in your packet was a memo outlining the calculations. The reappraised grand list came in at just under $1.1 billion, which is an increase of over 100%. The tax rate to raise the amount of money approved by council from taxes and the voters is 0.7596. This is a decrease in our tax rate of 41%. However, the average taxpayer in a home that's worth $414,000, which is the new median property value, will see an approximate 11.69% increase in their taxes. It is higher than we estimated during the budgetary process, likely due to the makeup of the reappraisal. The actual amount that came in was an 84% on average increase. However, the actual grand list only grew 78%. So that differential is why we're seeing a higher than anticipated tax rate increase. The other part of the calculation tonight is the local agreement rate. That is the amount of taxes that we need to raise to offset veterans exemptions that were approved by the public and are set in state statute. Any veteran who owns a property in Winooski receives an exemption of $40,000 on their property tax value and is taxed on that lower amount. The remaining amount is raised by the entire grand list. For the municipal side, that results in a 0.0004 cent tax. That tax, because the veterans amount is fixed, the local agreement rate did go down. It is a decrease on local agreement taxes of over 40%.
All right, I'll first open it to council for any questions.
Just to clarify really briefly, Angela, you just said 11.9. In the memo, it says 11.7.
11.69. So the memo's
Okay.
rounded up to the tenths.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Bryn?
I had some clarifying questions earlier that might be beneficial for the public. So Elaine, I don't know if you want to give a summary of some of what we talked about earlier, if you want me to ask those questions again. So, one thing I wanted to confirm was that what the voters approved in March was just over 8.3 million. And that while the tax rate is different than the estimated 8.07, that the majority of council opted to move forward for voters to consider. The amount, the dollar amount approved by voters doesn't change. So while the 11.7 is different than the estimated 8.07, that is, to my understanding, it's primarily factored because of the reappraisal and because of the lower rate of grand list change. So the dollar amount's not changing, but because those other factors, that's the cause for the percent increase. Correct.
So the percent estimated increase in the taxes that we present during budget time is always an estimate, because we can't know what the grand list is going to be, because the budget gets voted on before the grand list is set for the year that those taxes apply to. So I like to use the percent tax increase as a way to, that's the comparison, right? You're comparing apples to apples. But what council actually moves forward is the warning. The warning has the actual amount to be raised for taxes in the budget. So that's correct. Those numbers don't change. That's what was voted on. So it's like you've got the three numbers, right? You've got the denominator, the numerator, and the total. The total doesn't change. The denominator and the numerator. And then one of them is the tax rate, so the other one has to change accordingly to get to that same total.
Did you have additional questions you wanted to put forward, Bryn?
I know that we also try to be distinct with our city tax rate from the school property tax rate, but it's on the same piece of paper. So that makes it look like it's all combined, or appear as though it's all city, primarily city rolled into city taxes. So it may be beneficial to just reiterate the difference in our city tax rate to the school property tax rate.
Talked about creating an online tool or an in-person tool to show people how to read their tax bills. It's a lot of information on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper.
Right. Iterate, the school board decides the school budget, and then there's a state formula that determines their tax rate.
And the state formula this year will be printed on the face of the tax bills. Homestead rate would be the district rate divided by the CLA. Our CLA came in at just over 107% after reappraisal. And the non-homestead rate is the statewide rate divided by the CLA. Those have both been received as of today.
And is there, now that we have the appraisal done, that, to be clear, that appeal timeline has passed, is that correct?
Period has complete. But the Board of Civil Authority receives gets the last appeals. That has not happened yet.
Okay,
So the grant does have the potential to still change. However, we cannot build buffers into our calculation of the tax rate per state statute.
when is the BCA hearing usually scheduled?
It's currently scheduled for July 17th, in case you couldn't hear that.
Thank you. So just clarifying the question that I asked and making sure that I understand the answer. So the grievance period is passed, so essentially anyone that would have wanted to challenge their reappraisal, that they can no longer do that. Is that correct?
No new ones. They can, if they've submitted a grievance, they are allowed to appeal the decision, I believe. Yeah.
Anyone should come up.
That is correct. If they did not go through the grievance process, unfortunately, they'll have to wait to next year to appeal their taxes. The BCA will be meeting. The final deadline to file an appeal with the Board of Civil Authority is July 12th at 4 o'clock. So no postmarks are accepted. That can be email, that can be letter. And the BCA, I've called the meeting for July 17th per statute. They will not be taking up the appeals upon the request of our assessor until September.
Can you explain what that last piece is? Sorry.
Sure. So I was going to include that on the agenda, but Ted our assessor had specified we can and requested that we can have the appeals part of the middle of September.
Okay. Those are my questions for the time being.
Are there any additional counselor questions before I open it to public comment? All right, we'll open this up for public comment or questions. If you are in the room, you can come up to the microphone. If you are on Zoom, you can raise your hand if you wish to make a public comment.
Judy Lance again, thank you. I just want to make sure I understand. When back during budget time, first of all, I want to thank you for being very frugal during the budget sessions and coming up a lower budget than you might have, because you can see what's happened now. Instead of 8.7%, 7.7%, probably would have been more higher than that if we ended up with a larger budget. I appreciate that, and I'm taxpayer. So in order to estimate that 8.7% increase, what assumptions were made about what the grand list would end up at in relation to where it did end up?
Angela, is that something you're able to answer?
So we did not know what the fluctuation in fair market value would be. The only information that we included in the grand list fluctuation was a very minor organic growth of 0.005, 0.5% of organic growth from new development or additions.
Which is pretty standard. And so staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we're seeing here is that the overall grand list went up 78%, but the average residential property went up 84%, because as other communities in Vermont have seen, commercial property values are not increasing at the same rate as residential. So I think what we're seeing is some of the monetary burden shifting from commercial to residential, and that is not something that we calculated for in the projections.
The properties that I reviewed on the grand list that saw either decreases or lower than the standard increase typically were condos So not commercial properties or properties that are slated for demolition. So those properties were not brought in at their full fair market value for what exists today because it was anticipated that there would be a cost to tear those down.
Thank you, Angela.
So, yeah, I guess my question is where does the deviation from what was anticipated? Probably never understand anyway. Other people may. And
Well, what I was going to share is we did discuss this during our budget decisions, that we did not know and could not predict how the reappraisal would impact the final numbers. So we went into it with some amount of ambiguity. When the budget was built, projecting out growth based on the previous grand list, right? And so the way that things have shifted, it's not something that could have been predicted during that budget time.
In analyzing the data, we have a lot of properties that are clustered right around the average 84% mark. If it's something that's higher than the median, they were all typically within the same standard deviation range of about 15% over median. We had very few properties above the standard deviation range. There were only 79 properties that fell above that line, and usually very minimally above that line. However, we had a far greater spread below the line. The standard deviation below in the bottom median, below the median was 21%, with 198 properties being below the standard deviation. We definitely had a lot of properties that did not appreciate in value and did not have a corresponding amount above the value. So it definitely skewed the grand list growth down.
that I think I understand. I just want to say, well, I did come during the information meetings with the assessor and staff, just to make sure that my cost sheet was accurate, basically. And I have to say, everything was done very professionally. It was very courteous, very clear explanations of answers to my questions, and I really appreciated that, and I'm sure other property owners and taxpayers did too. I think that I want to commend them. Change the subject a little, is the education tax rate available to us tonight?
It is. It has been published on the state website. We downloaded it today. The homestead education rate will be 1.2601, and the non-homestead tax rate will be 1.2881. Those both represent decreases. The homestead side decreased 46%, and the non-homestead side decreased 37%.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And big thanks to Jenny for her help supporting that whole reappraisal process. And likely other members of our staff.
Hello, councilors. Hello, Mayor. My name is Lucas Pelletier. I am a Winooski resident. Actually have an upcoming interview with you in a couple of weeks to perhaps become part of the Planning Commission. So my question is, since we're talking about property taxes, since a fundamental rule of tax law and where it intersects with housing equity is that urban areas, economic activity and property taxes from urban areas directly subsidize the infrastructure in rural areas, I would like to know how much of our property taxes are staying in Winooski versus subsidizing some of these more rural areas.
Thank you, Lucas. City municipal property tax is all staying in the city. We don't send any money out. The education side of the tax bill is managed at a statewide level, and I couldn't begin to explain to you the details of that.
On the ed fund side, we receive more money than we raise in taxes.
Very nice. Thank you for clarifying that. I have one more quick question. In an effort to perhaps reduce future increases, steep increases in property taxes, how can we use what we know about densifying urban areas with housing, diversifying our transit model as well, and use those in our effort to curb those property tax increases in the future?
Thank you for that suggestion. That's something that we can reflect on as we head into the next annual budgeting cycle, which will kick off in September.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of the work that all of you do daily.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Not in the room.
Okay. Pending no more discussion from council, I would look for a motion to approve the FY25 municipal tax rate of 0.7596 and a municipal local agreement rate of 0.0004, with the education local agreement rate to be established by calculation once the city receives the education tax rate from the state.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Abstain.
All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Oh my. One moment, I need my specific statutory language. Okay. An executive session has been warned pursuant to state statute section 313, which exempts from public inspection contracts. I am looking for a motion to find that premature general public knowledge regarding this topic would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage because the city's risks disclosing its negotiation strategy if it discusses this topic in public. The city risks disclosing its strategy if discussing it in public.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I need a second motion that we enter into executive session to discuss this topic under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1A of the Vermont statutes, inviting City Manager Elaine Wong. And Elaine, any additional staff?
Angela, Jesse, and Justin, please.
All right, do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So we are going to move to a different Zoom line to have this executive session discussion. No other business will be discussed during that executive session. We'll return to this Zoom line and to the regular item for any actions taken. Okay, it looks like we have all returned. Before moving to action, I will one last time see if there is any public comment or questions.
One left in the room.
If you are on Zoom and wish to make a comment or questions, you could use the raise hand feature. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to ratify our police union contract for fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2027?
So moved.
There is a motion on the table. Would anyone like to second?
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any abstains? No, okay, duh. Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you to staff for, I know it takes a lot of work to get these things through, and it sounds like it was successful, so we appreciate that. This is the end of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Have a great holiday.